What if we could learn from outstanding leaders in business, sports, and education from some of the best voices in corporate America? Lighting the Path is a series of interviews with industry leaders whose stories highlight strategies that build purpose-driven cultures, engage and retain top talent, develop drivers that create high-performance teams, and connect people to the vision of your company. Join us to hear from game-changing, talented leaders whose paths make a difference at work and at home.
Today I'm joined by someone who's falling from a colleague into a friend category, Dan Mintz. He and I met, and just so that you know, as you watch this program, we're on different time zones. He's 8 hours away from it because he's dialing in from Israel today.
Right, yeah.
Dan is a leadership and productivity strategist, and it caught my attention when he and I met. He's the creator of something that is called the 12-week breakthrough that's based upon the 12-week year. And it's a system that helps leaders turn vision, which is what we're charged with, into real consistent execution. And I can't think of a time that's more important for us to be having this discussion, because what makes Dan's perspective unique is a blend of both deep technical and business training. This is a guy who studied computer science at NYU, and he earned an MBA at Wharton, and he completed a master's in data science at MIT. But he took that educational foundation and put it into real world practical applications for literally global leaders in commerce. And his work today is about helping leaders simplify, focus, and move forward. And so, Dan, it's an honor to have you on our show.
It's my pleasure and honor, Mike. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Dan, I'm kind of curious about something.
Yeah.
With all the training and all the experiences that you've had, what was the moment that you realized that the knowledge alone isn't enough, that leaders need a system to really turn clarity into action? What was the breakthrough for you?
Yeah. So, you see, I worked for many years, okay, in all kind of positions. And one of the last positions was actually managing a $15 million company, and as a CEO. And all that time up to that point, it was, and I think a lot of people feel the same, is like you kind of you feel like on a treadmill, right? You're chasing tasks. You're not sure how to prioritize. You get distracted. Life happens, and you're trying to achieve your goals. You're trying to achieve your plans, but it's never really it. If you know what I mean. It's like I was able to do it. I planned so much for this quarter, but I was able to achieve only 10 or 15% because so many things were flying in and firefighting and whatever. And then I realized I just can't go on like this. I want to achieve my goals. I want to double my business. I want to make my life better. And I said, look, I cannot just be chasing I have all this education and background. I was already managing a company before. And I said, I must have a better system. There must be a much better way of organizing my work, my life, and so on. And I went into a deep research and said, okay, I'm going to find the best productivity system to work with for me, for my team, maybe for my family, and so on, whomever would want to join. And I went to do a deep research, and I wanted to find a productivity system that will be able to address all the critical points in life and work, from setting a vision, setting goals, have weekly plans, execution, feedback loops, scorekeeping, measurement, and all that type of stuff. So I'm not going to talk about all the systems I researched, but I came along what is called the 12-week year. And I was so impressed by the fact that the book was focused, one, on execution. Second, it gave the idea that you can take a whole year and actually, instead of being dogmatic that you have to operate in a 12 months, you can actually shrink this 12 months into a 12-week. Okay, and that becomes your new year. And said, wait a second, why do I need to stay in 12 months thinking? That's in our life today, which is so fast-paced and things change so quickly. Actually, it makes a lot of sense to squish this 12 months into 12 weeks. And it's not just working on a cycle basis. It's saying, look, this is my new year. Okay, I'm going to achieve the goals I'm going to set for this 12 weeks in this year, 12-week year. Okay, and I also was very impressed with the fact that you can basically combine all the, let's say, call it the key ingredients that you need in order to become really productive inside that system, because you need to set up a vision, you need to set the right goals, both all the way up to your vision and to this 12 weeks. So you're taking your vision and you're making it anchored into the present, which is just an unbelievable way of taking your long-term vision and breaking it into the present, because you need to operate in the 12-week year. And you also have a clear way of measuring your progress, how you're going to do the weekly planning inside the 12-week, these 12 weeks. So you know exactly what you're going to do every week. You're going to do time blocking. So all the key ingredients are in there. And for me, once I adopted this, okay, while managing a business, so it was kind of crazy for a couple of months until I actually was able to implement it within my business and for my entire team. And it was just unbelievable how much clarity and focus it brought to my actions and to my team actions. Because we all of a sudden realized, look, we're going to be, like you mentioned many times in your podcast, the importance of hyper-focus. Okay, so we knew, okay, we have a vision, but we know the priorities. Okay, we're going to set the goals. Everybody knew their goals for the next cycle of 12 weeks. They knew how to measure the performance. They knew what's really important. They understand that 80% of your actions are going to, 20% of your actions are going to impact 80% of your results. That's built into the system. So it was really an amazing shift for me, just for implementing this simple system. But from achieving 15% of my goals, I was able to achieve 80% of the goals. So that's like a 5x performance just by implementing a productivity. So I said, wait a second, if I can use this is amazing, and help people implement this. I mean, it's not a complex system, but it takes a lot of accountability and adherence and perseverance to really implement it for the long term. Because even though you have a 12-week, your first 12-week cycle or the first 12-week year, the important thing is to keep on with these cycles, and you adjust from one cycle to the other. Meaning, you look at what happened your first 12-week year, you understand the mistakes, you understand how to adjust yourself, you understand how to do the time blocking, you gain the insights, and you implement it very quickly. So you have a very quickly feedback loop to the next 12-week year. And then again, you can switch it. So you have both the long-term perspective and the current and the present perspective combined together almost in the most optimal way, at least the way I found. So that was a huge turning point for me. And by the way, I work with dozens of people, mostly from word of mouth, really. From word of mouth, people start to say, wait a second, it's really interesting what you're doing. Why don't you teach me? So I started to teach people. And I see other people making a real life transformation, having this hyper-focus, hyper-clarity with the system.
Yeah, it's a perfect time for us to be talking about this, because for those of you who might be looking at this in the future, right now, this is January, early in January. We just turned the calendar from 12/31 to 1/1. Turn the page on the calendar. And what happens is, in today's time, there's a reset that takes place. It's a new year, a new opportunity, whatever. Nothing's different between 12/31 and January 1, except for the fact I do this on the old calendar, right? That's it. Nothing changes other than in our head. But we go into a reset. What you're describing is that if you take the 12-week year and think about things that, another way of looking at it is, it's the difference between a 12-week year and a quarter mentality, which is a quarter period. In your mind, what's the difference in that? Because that's, we've been having quarterly plans forever. What's the difference between quarterly plans and a 12-week year?
That's a great question, and goes to the heart of the system. And why is that? Because when I see companies, and I work with companies, who say, okay, what do you want? We already have quarterly planning, so what's the difference? They have quarterly planning, but the goals are still annual goals. Their thinking is still annual thinking. Okay, so they still measure themselves at the end of the year. Okay, so even if they start at the quarter, okay, and they say, well, this goal could wait to the next quarter or to the third quarter, and then they lose the focus, they lose the clarity, they lose lose the urgency. They don't bring enough insights from quarter to quarter. But instead of just quarterly planning, which is still inside an annual thinking, you discard this annual thinking, okay? Almost completely. And say, that's it. My year is a 12-week year. And it's not that this is your year. It's about thinking, this is my time unit I'm going to operate in.
It's a mindset.
It's a mindset. So if I have a certain goals that I have to achieve this year, there's no excuses. You cannot just say, okay, I'm going to do it next year. No, you have to achieve it this year. And the measurement has to be this 12-week of your performance. At the end of this 12-week, you need to stop and think and see, okay, how did I perform? And take some rest for a couple of days, because it's if you think about it, it's pretty intense. It keeps you in check. There's a clear deadline, okay, in your mindset. And then you gain the insights and the quick feedback loop. And when you operate in just a quarterly thinking, it's still an annual thinking, and you don't have this quick feedback loop. You don't have this accountability. You just don't have that level of performance when you change your thinking to a 12-week year.
I love this because at this time, and you and I were talking about this before we came on live, about this atmosphere of uncertainty that we're trying to navigate, not just here in the United States, not just in Israel, but literally on a global basis, that's driven by the advent of AI, which 10 years ago, AI was not even a term. And that was used.
You can even think about it 3 years ago.
Yeah,
right.
That was over generous.
It's changed so much in the last 3 years. It's just unbelievable.
It's phenomenal what the resources have, but it's causing the marketplace to shift. It's causing society to shift because people are trying to figure out what impact is that having for me in my work. So there's an economic piece of it. We also have this atmosphere of uncertainty because of geopolitical issues that are going on, globally. So you've got the governmental issues that you're dealing with in Israel that are different than we're dealing with the States, but there's still issues, and it causes the populace to try to figure out what's next. And I love this atmosphere of that you're bringing in of focus, because as you were talking about, I wrote down 3 words under the umbrella of focus. Is that if you're looking at, instead of quarterly, but if you are committing to a 12-week year with the same type of mindset that we have about an annual plan, if you have that type of commitment, what happens is, in order to have the commitment, you have to have an atmosphere of accountability, right? And in order to have accountability, you have to have communication that people are focused on not all the issues, but out of everything we have to do, what's of highest priority and what obstacles are standing in the way of me performing and making that happen, all right? Which centers on the word communication.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And actually, can I tell you a story about that's totally related to uncertainty? So I'm working with this person who works at Deloitte. Deloitte, obviously, this big consulting firm, and he feels, because of the AI, the huge shifts of uncertainty. Okay, and he asked me, okay, Dan, what can I do about this uncertainty? I mean, why should I plan 6 months in advance? I mean, I have no idea what's going to happen with technology. I have no idea what's going to happen with my projects. I have no idea where I'm going to be in 6 months. How can I do any planning whatsoever? I mean, and it's a totally fair question. And I think there are tons of people facing the same question. What skills should I acquire? How should I plan myself for the next 6 months? Things are shifting so quickly. I mean, AI is impacting knowledge workers like anything else in the past, right? So it's not just about manufacturing anymore. It's about the huge base of knowledge workers all over the world feeling this uncertainty you're talking about. And I see people who talk to me and ask me, okay, great, you have this 12-week year. How is it going to help me if I don't know what to do in 6 months? I don't know what skills to acquire. I don't know what to focus on. I don't know what type of networking should I do, and so on. So the way I think, and that's how we implemented it, is because there's so much uncertainty, actually shortening the feedback cycles that you use will help you a lot with uncertainty. Because then, if in an age of uncertainty, there's almost you have to use trial and error. Okay, because you're not really sure, you have to use this, let's call it tiny experiments that you have to do to quickly get feedback from the market of what you need to do, how to act, where to focus us, and so on. So what we did, we built a system based on the 12-week year, because 12-week is long enough to do like an experiment in terms of the uncertainty that you need to face. Okay, so it's long enough, it's almost 3 months, but it's short enough to get this quick feedback. Okay, so just looking at uncertainty and saying, look, I don't know what to do, that's not a plan, that's not a strategy. Okay, you need to act. Okay, we're living in a competitive world, and you need to get this competitive advantage. You need to be focused, you need to have goals. I mean, the principles haven't changed. Okay, you still need to get into action. You still need to have a vision, goals, whatever. You just need the right system to deal with uncertainty. And actually, what we did is we built a cycle. So he knew that there was 12-week year. He set his goals very clearly, but he knew that in a way they're kind of experiments. So he was testing. So he knew that, okay, this next cycle, I'm going to work on this project because I want to test these new skills, which all related to AI, by the way, because he was kind of an AI consultant. So obviously he was dealing with this uncertainty head on in terms of the actual technology. It wasn't just like a shift, like a side thing that might impact him. It was impact him directly, and he felt it, but he took it as an opportunity, actually. And he gained a huge advantage compared to other consultants at Deloitte, because his bosses, his superiors, saw that he actually have a concrete plan of how to deal with this uncertainty. And what happened is an entire team actually changed into that system as well. So, wow, this is a great way to deal with uncertainty. We know that we need to do some experiments. We know we have to do trial and error. We know we have a quicker feedback loop, but we need that focus, because at least we should be focused on what are our goals, what are short-term goals, what is our vision, and get this quick feedback loop, what's working, what's not working, and then adjust to the next cycle. And the performance, I'm not just saying it because I worked with the system. The performance improved, the clients were happier, they felt better with themselves. They say, okay, I know there's uncertainty, but I know how to address it.
Yeah,
so
but here's the wild thing, what you're talking about here, Dan, that I love.
I'm sorry. I'm hogging the time, Mike.
No.
Stop me anytime.
You're supposed to.
I love to talk about it. I like to see the change in people, but just talk to me anytime.
This is about you, not and I love this concept because there's something that's really important that I want us to chronicle. You keep talking about the feedback loop. That because of my background of decades in the executive search area, I watch human performance as people make transitions and watch them perform, or actually in some cases don't perform, which causes turnover. And it's interesting in today's time, the number one employee retention tool, is feedback. That people not that managers have to deliver it, that people desire feedback so that they can understand their value. Am I being valued with what I do?
That's a great insight, by the way. That's a great insight that I'm going to adopt actually into my program.
You need to because if you look at this 12
and you can even do it on a weekly basis.
You can. And thanks for joining us today on Lighting the Path: Strategies for Tomorrow's Leaders. If anything in this podcast speaks to you, if I've challenged you, or if you want to spend time digging into this subject a little deeper, or if you disagree with me, reach out. My contact information is on our website, lightingthepath.net, or email me at mike@mikelejeune.com. Also, look for me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect our networks. Keep lighting the path for those who choose to follow you. It's more than a responsibility. It's an honor.